Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Rangers review pre-match video. You can call it a bit of insight into Aris Limassol, or how Rangers will be facing in the Europa League in Cyprus on Thursday evening. I'm delighted to say we're joined by Stel from the This Is Mappa, a Cypriot football podcast, to give us a bit of insight into Rangers' opponents. Stel, how are we doing?
Good, thanks, mate. Thanks for the invitation. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's great to have you on. It's fair to say, I think that, this is the first time that Rangers will have come up against Aris Limassol in a competitive fixture before. I'm sure that many supporters, maybe not familiar with the club and how they've progressed to the Europa League. Can you give us a little bit of background on the club itself, the history and what have you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about a club that's about 93, 94 years old, but they won their first league title last season. Prior to that, they were practically a yo-yo club, going up and down first and second division. But I think between 97 and 2015, they'd either got relegated or promoted. And I think 2008, they finished 8th. And prior to that, their best finish was 4th in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, they've been, as I said, they're a yo-yo club. They're not the biggest club in Limassol. There are two other sides in Limassol. You've got Apollon, which I think George Burley was head coach at one point, and AL in Limassol. Kevin Miralles was there last season. So they're the two big clubs in Limassol. Ari are a small club. They probably have about 500-600 fans going to games. Wow. As I said, they're not a big club, but to be fair, since they got taken over in 2021 by Fedorov, a gentleman from Belarus, a businessman, they've really changed things in and around the club. They've got a great youth academy. They've got a women's team now, and they're doing things the right way. You've got clubs with money like your Man Cities, like your Chelseas, etc., etc. People say they throw money at it. They're doing. Aris have done something similar, but they've done things the right way. They've looked at their marketing. As I said, they've got a youth academy now, and youth development in Cyprus isn't as great as what it should be. So they've done very, very well. And to win the league last season and the manner in which they did it is fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say that winning the league title, did they run away with it in the end? Do they play an attractive football?
Well, the funny thing is they went through a stage last season. They went 7 games without a win. And usually in Cyprus, 1 or 2 games without a win gets a manager sacked. In fact, one club is on their 8th head coach in 12 months.
Wow,
so,
Jesus.
Yeah, we've had 3 managerial changes already this season. We're only 6 games in. So it's standard for Cyprus. But as I said, I do things different. They brought in Spilevski a couple of years ago, who's a coach that was at RB Leipzig and Stuttgart as a youth coach. So Ragnick is like his mentor, so to speak. So he came in, he's 36 years old as well, pretty young. And he came in, and last season, as I said, they went 6 or 7 games without a win. And we thought, that's it, they're going to sack him. But no, they stuck by him. And in Cyprus, I think it's similar. Well, I don't know what it's like in Scotland. If I'm not mistaken, you guys split. Is it we play each other twice?
The last we played. The league splits for the final 5 games of the season is a top 6 and a bottom 6.
Right.
And you play the top teams, and the bottom teams play each other, sort of thing.
Yeah. So in Cyprus, we got 14 teams, and then you play each other twice, and then the league splits. So you got the top 6, and then the bottom 8, so to speak, and then the top 6 play each other twice for the title. And Adi went into it, and they just took it by storm, really. The closest rivals were Apoel, who, as you are probably aware, one of the biggest teams, if not the biggest team in Cyprus, won multiple titles, and they beat them to the title with 2 games to go, which was fantastic for Adi because, as I said, they're a small club, and to see them be successful, you got a lot of resentment in Cyprus. People will say, oh, they're just laundering money, they're just doing things different, they're throwing all the accusations. But when you look at the squad of players that they have, it's a mixture of youth and experience. And I think the youth side of things, albeit a lot of them, in fact, most of them are not Cypriot. A lot of them are African or Scandinavian or even Eastern European. But they've done very well to build a team. And Spilevski has got this counter-attacking, high-pressing system, which obviously with this pace that they have up top, it has really done them good.
Yeah, and looking at, their European results, their history, and of course they played in the Conference League last season. Just missed out on the Champions League qualification to a Polish team. I'll not try and pronounce their name.
Rakov, yeah.
And then they did really well to beat Slovan Bratislava, didn't they, to qualify for the group stage?
Absolutely. Well, I watched the game against Rakov, both games. Obviously, I wasn't there. I was watching it from home. But I think they have the same. They've had the same problem all season, and that's defensively. Yeah. When you talk about the high press, obviously you're going to get caught out. But they've had injuries defensively, suspensions, and look, the quality of defending in Cyprus isn't great. And while they do have good defenders, they're not good enough at that level. We're talking Champions League elite level. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's where they came unstuck. But as you saw in the second leg against Bratislava, they absolutely obliterated them. And one player who I'm pretty sure you may have heard of, Morgan Brown, that was at Aberdeen a few seasons ago.
Yeah. He's
been fantastic for him since joining. And he was there before the takeover. So he's seen the evolution of the club in the past few years.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Brown. Is there any other players? I know the sort of a multicultural side, international, the players all across the world really representing them. Is there any players that Rangers should be mindful of on Thursday evening?
There's quite a few, actually. You've got Babika, that's a right winger. He's from Gabon, plays with Aubameyang for the national team. Mayambela, a South African winger who's been outstanding for them. Gomis is effectively like a number 10. He's been good for them. Brorsson, a Swedish wide player who I think a few years ago he was touted as one of the top Scandinavian talents. But then you've got Stepinski, that's played for Hellas Verona in Italy, Serie A. And then Kokorin, the Fiorentina striker, who's got his second stint at the club. He was there last season on loan. He went back to Fiorentina. We thought, he's not going to come back. They managed to get a deal across to bring him back on loan. He was this player of the season last year. He's a fantastic footballer. Midfield, as I mentioned, Morgan Brown. You've got Zoke, who's a central midfielder. Strutsky, a Polish midfielder. And at the back, probably their best defender is Franz Brorsson, a Swedish defender that came from Malmo. But he's had an indifferent season. And without him in the back line, they suffer a lot because of his leadership, because of his experience. And then you've got Vanna Alves, a Brazilian goalkeeper who joined from Porto, if I'm not mistaken. Good goalkeeper, but it's like we say on the podcast, a goalkeeper is only as good as his back line. And this season, he's been flapping at crosses. He's been looking very shaky. And that's probably because the back line hasn't been settled. They've had injuries, loss of form. It hasn't been great for them.
Yeah, interesting. And how do you expect them to approach the game on Thursday night, Stel? Do you think they will be open and expansive?
Well, in all fairness, ever since their run of form back in the last season, which saw them win the title, I haven't seen them be defensively minded. I haven't seen them play this counter-attacking style of football. Yes, against the big clubs or in the derby games, they will set their stall out in sort of like a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 and try and hit teams on the counter-attack. But because they're so focus on being on the front foot, they go for the throat from the off. I don't know how they'll set up against Rangers, because against Sparta Prague, the first 15 minutes, they played very, very well. Attacking football, they scored in the opening 10 minutes. It was great to see. But then the moment Sparta Prague equalized, their heads dropped, and that was it. And the goal came from a set piece. And this is what I've been saying about them all season. From set pieces, whether it be a corner or a free kick, even long throws, they make defensive errors. They don't track runners, ball watching. And it's frustrating for me to see, because I know on the counter-attack, they're absolutely lethal. Babika's pace, Mayambela shooting from range, Brorsson coming in from the left-hand side, Gogorin dropping deep. They've got a Dutch left winger that came in, and he's been fantastic for them. So I think they can get Rangers on the counter-attack, but my main concern for Ari is the stamina. And Rangers are a different level when it comes to stamina, energy, aggression. I know you guys have changed. Well, you sacked your head coach.
Yeah, last night.
A new guy. Yeah. So Michael Beale. Yeah. I've got a QPR fan that was saying, "I told you so." But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But look, I think Rangers have enough to get a 3 or 4-0 scoreline. And this isn't a disrespect to Ali, because don't get me wrong, I love the club. I've got friends that play for the club, people that work for the club. They're not my team in Cyprus, but I respect them. But at the same time, I know the levels. I can see the levels, and I just think that the stamina and that extra bit of quality is going to get Rangers over the line with this one.
Yeah, that's interesting. Rangers, like you say, they come into it with an interim management team in place. I think there's a bit more optimism heading into the game, as there would be if Michael Beale was still in charge. So it will be interesting to see how Rangers shape up as well. There may be some changes. I know they've got a raft of injuries as well, so it will be intriguing. In terms of their expectation then in this group stage, Stel, narrow defeat to Sparta Prague in the opening game. Is it a case of just enjoying the ride, or are they hoping to maybe get in a second place finish or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, speaking to people at the club, they see it as a European journey, a European adventure. It's great, especially from a financial element, because while they do have bags of money, you've got financial fair play to worry about. And for a Cypriot team, it's great for us because it boosts us in terms of the rankings. What's it called? What's it called now? I forget what it's called now. Coefficient. That's the word. Sorry. And we were behind Sweden up until the three of other clubs of ours got knocked out of Europe. Omonia being one of my teams, we got knocked out of Europe by Midtjylland. So it looked promising. So I think the Aris board and the players know that it's going to be an uphill task. Betis are a difficult team. Obviously, you guys are a difficult team, and Sparta Prague played them off the park, especially in the second half. So I think what they would have hoped for is a maximum third place finish in the group. And that's, I guess, what they're aiming for. They're realists, don't get me wrong. They know that they're not at that level, but I think they believe that anything can happen in football. And looking at the romantic story from them coming from second division to winning the league in the space of 2 seasons, anything is possible in their eyes. And I wish them all the best, in all fairness.
Yeah, and I know they've had a decent start in the league as well, haven't they? It's an aspiration to go and defend that title. Do you think they're good enough to do that?
Well, they haven't won in the last 4 games, and that's including Europe. Obviously, we had an international break as well, so they lost at the weekend to Apollon, and they were quite unlucky because they scored. For me, I think they scored a very, very good goal, which was disallowed because apparently the ball crossed the line for a goal kick. But watching it over and over again, they don't have the reverse camera angles, but watching it over and over again, I think they were shafted out of it, to be fair. Yeah. They drew with my team Omonia. They were 2-1 up until the last minute, and we scored an equaliser. And the week before, they drew against Buffalo, another team which is foreign-owned. We've got a few star-studded players there. For star-studded, I mean for Cyprus anyway. So they've struggled. Their last victory came on the 4th of September, which was a 5-0 victory against a team that's recently got promoted. So they have struggled, but I think it's because it's the 3 games a week kind of thing. They got a weekend game, then it's the Europa League, then it's another game. And it's very difficult for clubs like that, especially from Cyprus at that level, to go from playing domestically against a team that you can beat to against a team where you're having to go full throttle or at least conserve some energy and then go back at the weekend to play another team which you've got a chance of beating. So historically, it's been difficult for Cypriot clubs. As I said, we don't have the quality, we don't have the depth, but I think Adi are the closest to doing something fantastic in Europe for a Cypriot team since Upwell in 2012 when they got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Yeah, I remember watching them in that run. I was going to ask as well, I mean, the stadium, I love the name, that the Alpha Mega Stadium, recently built, of course, seems pretty big for a fan base that only bring about 500-600 fans to games still. But will it be an intimidating atmosphere for Rangers, do you think? No chance. No chance at all. Derek, I'll be honest with you, right? You're lucky that my co-host isn't on here because we have spoken about the Alpha Mega Arena for a while. Now, Alpha Mega is actually a supermarket, so they sponsored the stadium. Yeah. And since they released the plans to build the stadium, it's just been a mess. It was supposed to be 15,000, then 4,000 seats disappeared off the plans, and then it's gone down to like 11,000. Yeah. The road around the stadium still isn't complete. So when Apollon played AL in the Limassol derby last weekend, there was so much traffic that ambulances couldn't get through. Wow. When it rains, there's massive puddles in the road. It's just, pardon my language, it's a shit show, right? Yeah. So, but the thing is, it's funny because it's Cyprus. We're used to this. You guys will go out there and you see some strange things like maybe, I don't know, a donkey walking on the pavement. And we find it hilarious because this is Cyprus. Okay, I know I'm being stereotypical and it's just a bit of banter, but
Yeah.
Certain things happen in Cyprus, which is why our podcast is called This is Mapa. The word Mapa in Cypriot is football. But when you see something that's unexplainable in Cyprus, you just say, this is Cyprus. And this is what you do. So in terms of the stadium, all right, it's a nice stadium. A lot of the locals think it's a nice stadium because it's a new stadium. I don't think it'll be an intimidating atmosphere. Of course, there'll be fans from other clubs there because it's a British club. It's Glasgow Rangers. It's a club steeped in football history. They're going to want to go there to see it. But you might have about 1,000, 2,000 Ari fans, including other supporters. And then I don't know how many tickets you guys have got, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that a few thousand, I think, by all accounts. But the Rangers fans always travel in great numbers, so I'd imagine there might be they'll be dotted in and around at the stadium. I'd imagine, and well, like you say, I think there'll be a lot of tourists over there at the time on holiday, perhaps, and taking the game. I was going to say as well, as for fans that are heading over there, in terms of the stadium and the sort of close proximity to the town, the city, Stel, is it close to Limassol, or is there things to do? Lots of bars, I'd imagine, restaurants to keep them entertained?
Well, from the stadium, if you're talking about the tourist area, because the stadium's in Bolamidia, which is a little bit outside of Limassol Central, so you could probably get to the center of town in about 10 minutes by cab. They don't really follow many rules out there, so red means go at a light, by the way. So I'm joking, but it's you got the tourist area in Limassol. There's quite a few bars. There's a lot of, I think there's a British pub in Limassol as well. There's a lot of expats there. You've got Agrodiri, which isn't far from there. So Episcopi, a lot of expats, RAF bases down there. So it's going to be like being back home, but with more sun and obviously foreign language to deal with. So, the locals are welcoming. I don't think there's going to be any problems. I don't know if there's any rivalries with Rangers or any other Cypriot clubs. If there's been any back history or whatever.
They've played Famagusta a couple of times, but that was years and years ago.
Larnaca,
So that's really much it, really.
The thing is, though, you hardly see crowd trouble with foreign fans in Cyprus. European games, unless there's like a Red Star Belgrade, or you might have political issues with maybe a Turkish club. I don't know. But on the whole, it's usually the problems domestically with local supporters. I mean, this season alone, we've had 2 referees' cars bombed.
Wow.
Back in the last season, the referees' union offices were attacked. Another bomb at 2 a.m. I mean, we've had since 2009 about 16 bomb attacks on officials. But the thing is, again, corruption is rife, and as you know, with anything, when it comes to money, comes greed, comes corruption, and we've got this problem in Cyprus. Referees went on strike a couple of weeks ago because of the bombings, but this is something that needs to be addressed, and the head, and it doesn't help that the head of the Cypriot Football Association is under investigation at the moment from the ethics committee. I mean, there's a 6,000-page document which hasn't been released to the public yet about his business dealings. Again, I don't know the full extent of it, but at the same time, when you look at who the head of the CFA is friends with, and you're talking about Seferin, certain things get swept under the carpet. But I think this is a conversation for another time. It's got nothing to do with Glasgow Rangers.
Yeah, but it's interesting. That leads me on nicely, Stel, because you obviously host a great podcast covering Cypriot football. If people want to find out a little bit more about you guys and the work you do, how do they do so?
Yeah, so if you're on Twitter, or X is what it's called now, you could just search This is Mapa, which is there. Same with Instagram. We're on YouTube. So if you search for This is Mapa or the NC Network, because we've got a network of other podcasts as well, one of them being an Omonia fan podcast, which is like with you're doing, but for a Cypriot club. It's in English as well. So apart from the Cockney accent, you probably understand the Greek more than my accent, in fairness. So we've developed a bit of a following. It's been a nice journey because we're enlightening people on the shenanigans that happen in Cyprus. But everything happens in Cyprus, to match fixing, to VAR not working, to bombings, to players not being able to enter the country because of passport problems, and then wanting to fly their dogs to another country. There's all sorts of stuff. Yeah,
lively then. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. Well, Stel, it's been great having you on. Thank you for coming on. And we'll make sure we have a wee chat before the game at Ibrox later on in the year. But thank you.
Thank you very much.